Hey girl, let's talk about those flaky friends for a second. You know the ones. They promise to hang out, then cancel at the last minute. Over it? Same. Imagine this instead. The Meet the World Writers Cruise, setting sail August 29th, 2025 from Miami. New faces, good vibes, and no one flaking on you. It's just you, a group of ambitious, like-minded writers, and some well-deserved fun in the sun. And here's the kicker. Only 30 cabins and the first 15 signups get a $200 discount. Why wait around for those friends to come through? Make new ones. Write your story and have the time of your life. Now is the time to write your future bestseller. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your girl, Dr. Rhonda M. Lawson. And did you see that promo for the Meet the World Writers Cruise? Can we just have a conversation about that? I'm telling you, the Writers Cruise is going to be everything. If you missed, we had a Zoom session last night where we were talking with the people who are coming on the cruise to tell them all about what they're going to be experiencing. And the call was everything. So did you miss it? You probably missed it. So you might need to be on the next one. We're going to be having another Zoom call in the next couple of weeks, and I would love to see you there. And believe it or not, the cruise is almost halfway filled. That's right. We are almost halfway filled. So in fact, in about the next day or two, we're going to be about 75% filled. So if you have been thinking about going on the Meet the World Writers Cruise, but you haven't made up your mind yet, it's time to make up your mind because we got things to do. We got books to write. We got islands to check out. And then we have a few surprises in store for you, especially if you're an author. So we want to see you there. But that's neither here nor there. We're going to talk about that in a minute. We have two amazing guests tonight, and they have some stories that they are going to tell you. So I'm going to bring on our first guest. She's a minister. She has an amazing ministry, and she has a great story to tell. She's a podcaster. She hosts her own show. So I want you all to meet this very special lady. And I actually met her in Houston. You know, I meet a lot of authors at the National Black Book Festival. This is one of the people that I met at the National Black Book Festival. So I loved her story. Now it's time for you to fall in love with her story as well. So without any further ado, I would love for you to meet author Stephanie M. Seaton. Hello.
Hello. Happy to be here tonight.
Well, I'm happy to have you. Thank you so much and welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you. I'm telling you, welcome. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here, Dr. Rhonda. Thank you so much.
Well, like I said, I'm very happy to have you. And I know we've been connected for about almost a year, I think. It feels like almost a year. It was just November, or October, but it feels like a year. This has been a lot going on in the last few months. But I'm really glad that we remain connected, and I'm looking forward to being on your show in May. But until then, why don't you just tell the people about who Stephanie Seaton is?
Okay. Well, I am Stephanie M. Seaton. As you said, I'm a minister, author, publisher, podcast host, a mom. I have two sons, and they are my everything. I call them my heartbeats. Yes. I have a lot of stuff, but I myself am just a woman that loves the Lord, and is trying to give back. I have been through a lot of stuff in my life. And because of the goodness of the Lord and how he kept me through that stuff, I am just on a mission to share the gospel of Jesus Christ, whether it be through books, through publishing, through my Christian t-shirt brand, through all the different brands that I have. Everything just gives God glory. Just letting people know if he can do it for me, he can do it for you. My brand is healing, empowerment, and transformation. And literally, Dr. Rhonda, that's what I do. I just tell people my testimonies of the stuff that I came from. And when you hear it and you see me, it just proves that there's a God.
Come on, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. So,
yeah,
talk to me a little bit about what is your core message when I know you talk about healing and restoration, but
yeah,
when you're spreading this message, sometimes I think we as Christians we
yeah.
say we say it and we mean it, but sometimes we don't always say it in a way to where the non-believer or maybe even that on the fence believer is going to receive it. So, talk to me a bit about how you tell your story.
So the Lord has called me to be very transparent in the way that I minister. I minister in my books. Sometimes I tell my stories first person. Sometimes I tell them through characters. It's a little easier when I'm telling the not so pleasant stuff. Um,
Mm,
but I tell everything because what the Lord has shown me is my very first book was The Woman at the Well. So
okay.
we all know the story of the woman at the well. We know all her
Yes.
stuff, right? And so she had the multiple marriages. She was with a man who wasn't her husband. So kind of like the woman at the well, I had a story as well. Been in ministry for all these years. Went through 3 failed marriages in the church. I'm pastoring the children and going through my third divorce. Have 2 kids, 20 years apart. Like I had the stuff. I had the top, the titles. There were the conversations and the whispers, kind of like the woman at the well, right?
Yes.
And what the Lord did for me was He showed me, when He gave me the title, He showed me how to compare her life and mine. That even though she had done the stuff, even though she had the titles, what about the fact of who she was before the stuff? What made her the woman at the well? She had to have some brokenness, right? Because she kept going through all these failed marriages. She was
Mm-hmm.
going to get water at a time that wasn't convenient to hide from the people. So she had a lot of stuff going on. If she had a father in her life, guess what? He wasn't an ideal father because she didn't know how to deal with men, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just like that, he kind of showed me my life parallel that, you know what? The same way that I showed up for her, I'm showing up for you. No matter what you've done, just like when he talked to her at the well and he told her about the husbands and the stuff, he told me all my stuff, but he never tells us. And when I say us, I mean inclusive, us,
Right.
believers or non-believers. When the Lord comes into contact with you and he has an encounter with you, he's telling you your stuff, but he's telling you your stuff to let you know I've been with you the whole time. I know all your stuff, but I'm
You
still
know,
here for you.
as I'm listening to that story, one thing that God has laid on my heart is that
Yeah.
when He talked to her, He
Yeah.
talked to her. He
There you go.
didn't. What he
He,
did not do is wait to get a big crowd around and shame her.
there
He
you
did.
go.
He didn't do that,
Yeah.
and I think that that's sometimes where we as people fall short
Yeah.
because what we feel like, or I'm going to tell you about all your stuff in front of everybody, or I'm going to come at you
Yeah.
not from a place of love, but a
That's right.
place of judgment, and then call it love.
That's right.
And I think sometimes we don't realize that we
Mm.
actually push people away when we do it that way.
There you go. And that's what it's about. So the message that he has me on is about the transparency of the fact that there's really nothing. Like he says in his word, there's nothing that can separate us from him or him from us. You can go left, you can go right, but if you surrender your life to Christ, and even before you surrender your life to Christ, he's still watching over you, right?
Amen.
So people would have you to believe that you have to just go through hoops and jump this way and jump that way, but the truth of the reality is that he loved us while we were yet sinners. The Bible says while we were yet sinners. So
Mm.
we didn't have all the dust dusted off of us. We didn't have all the I's dotted, all the T's crossed. He loved us in spite of. Now, does he call us to change?
Mhm.
Yes, but it's a process, and he helps
Yes.
us to get to know him in the process. He shows us who he is so that we can trust him, because we have to get our hearts open to receive him. And so it was just the right moment for the woman at the well, and that's what happened for me. I had been in church all my life. I had done the stuff. I was the Sundays and the Wednesdays, the tradition, the religion, the all the stuff, right? But it wasn't personal, Dr. Rhonda. And
Mm.
so about 3 years ago, it became personal. I got to the end of the rope and I was like, you know what? I'm tired of the stuff. I'm tired of doing it my way. And
Yes.
so that's when the Lord gave me the book. And by the time I put that book together, I was just in awe of how he showed my life to me. And I thought to myself, this has to be how she felt in that moment, that
Hmm.
the Lord and Savior went out of his way to come and get her. What does it say? He leaves the 99 to go find the one. Well, that's what he done for me. And that's what he's willing to do for all of us. God is not a respecter of persons. So that's the message, that, it doesn't matter what you've done. There's no such thing as I've done too much. His blood covers everything. When he died on the cross, Dr. Run, and I'm trying not to preach.
That's all right. Come on, tell the message. Somebody needs to hear this.
Listen, when he died on the cross, he said, "It is finished." That means past, present, and future. And so, we have to know the word of God for ourselves. And then we have to be in relationship with Christ ourselves so that we can know what the word says. Otherwise, you can have someone beat you up and make you feel unworthy and shame you for what
Yes.
you've done. But
Yes.
there is no shame, and there's no condemnation in Christ. That's of the enemy. And so when we get into shame and condemnation, that's what keeps us bound, because the enemy will make you think you're the only one. You're all by yourself
Hmm.
in isolation. But that's what the Lord has done for me. And so
But
that's the message that I share.
we got to be real, because Christians will make us feel like we're the only one going through it.
Yeah,
Because often after we've gotten out of our stuff, we want to pretend that we've always had it together. And
yeah,
then sometimes we approach the person who's still going through a struggle as if they're wrong, like as if they're the only person. And then we approach them from a place of shame. And
yeah.
I talked about this a few weeks ago. And I think that sometimes Christian women who are probably have it worse when they're struggling with
Hmm.
sexuality, because
Hmm.
we don't feel comfortable talking with our Christian sisters
Yeah,
about what it is that we're struggling with,
yeah,
because we hear our Christian sisters shaming people for
yeah,
maybe the way they dress, or
yeah,
shaming them for how they speak,
yeah,
or for going through their sexual immorality. And we
yeah,
don't help them through it. We just talk about them. And we're
yeah.
seeing this from the first lady down to the sister in the church. And
Well,
so
let me
I
say
think that
this.
sometimes they make those women feel like they're by themselves.
Let me say this. We all struggle with something. If we didn't need
Absolutely.
Jesus, he wouldn't have died on the cross. So he knew that we were going to have struggles and that we would be going through some things. We all have fleshly issues, whether it be talking too much, gossiping, eating too much, whatever it
Mhm.
is. We all struggle with something. And so the thing is, we can bring the word to each other, but we're supposed to love each other. We're supposed to cover
Amen.
each other with love. And then I wanted to say this: you have to use the word Christian lightly. So
Mm.
there's a difference. And when I say this, there is religion and there's relationship. Now, let me break this down.
I know where you're
Relationship.
going. Yes.
Relationship are Christians. And what I mean by that is I have a relationship with Christ. My relationship with Christ is not within the four walls of church. So I don't just talk to the Lord when I'm at church on Sundays and Wednesdays. I talk to the Lord every day, all day throughout the day. That's a relationship. That relationship allows me, through the power of the Holy Spirit, to hear the voice of the Lord.
Mm.
It allows me to be transformed. It allows me to have love. It allows me to accept and to nurture and to show people the love of Christ. Okay. Religion is Sundays and Wednesdays and fashion shows and church programs. No,
Yes.
I'm breaking it down for you. It's,
Hmm.
it's it's fashion shows and it's judgments and it's sermons and whom's and ha's and ha ha ha's, and nobody's
Mm.
life is being changed. There's a difference. And so when we say Christian, we have to say, is there a relationship? Because there's a lot of doors open saying Christian, but they don't know Christ.
Mm.
So we've used the term Christian a little too loosely.
Yes.
Without relationship, you're not a Christian. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely, it makes
I don't
sense.
want to go too deep, but
No, no, no,
there's a
you
lot
are
of
good.
there's a
Because
lot
like
of
I said,
people. Yeah,
somebody needs to hear this.
yeah. There's a lot of people who say Christian, but if you don't have a personal relationship with Christ, you can't be a lover of Christ or a follower of Christ. And your actions should show. So if you can't love with agape love, which is in spite of, then
Mhm.
you have to check that, because the Lord did this for me. Like I said, I've been in church all my life, but it was about 3 years ago that my eyes were opened up to the difference between relationship and religion. And so now I always say, for me, it's relationship over religion. I don't want religion. I
Yes.
have to have a relationship. Relationship is what changed my life. Relationship is what made me fall on my floor and decide to give up some stuff I didn't want to give up. Because
Mm.
I'm being honest with you, Dr. Rhonda, when I got down on the floor and repented and said, Lord, help me, I still wanted to make the phone calls. I still wanted to go to places and do the stuff, right? Can we
Yeah.
be real?
Yeah, we
But
can very much be real.
relationship with Christ is where my conviction came. It wasn't just going to church on Sundays, hearing the word and watching the people and doing the fashion shows, and we're going to dress in red today and white tomorrow. That didn't do nothing for me. The stuff I was dealing with, I needed something real. I needed
Yes.
real. And so for me, that's why I say, we have to be careful when we say the Christian word. And so you will know someone by their fruit. You look at the fruit. Do they love? Do they cover? Do they care for? Are they long suffering? Do they judge or do they help? Do they witness? Do they minister? Do they still show up? So that's how you know it's the you walking in the church and it's condemnation and watching you because you're somebody different. You got to check that, because that's not who Christ is. We have to have the attributes of Christ. Now, I'm not saying there's a perfect church, but there should be a personal relationship with Christ that forms transformation.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, you have preached a sermon, but it is okay. It is okay. We needed that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But now your books.
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
do you cover these subjects in your books?
Yes. In my books, I tell my stuff. I tell my testimonies. That is what the Lord called me to do, to tell my testimonies. So, my very first book, The Woman at the Well, I told about the multiple marriages. I told about the stronghold relationships. I told about all of it because that's where Christ came and healed me and delivered me. And so I told how, I did this, that, and that, and how the Lord loved me and covered me even more when I didn't deserve it you know I talk about all of that, and there was a time where I was like, ooh, I don't want to talk about that, and the Lord said, put it in the book. And I was
Mm.
like, ooh, I don't want to, because I was worried about my reputation. I was like, I
Right,
don't want.
right.
But the Lord said, this is not about you. He said, it's about ministry. And we need more people that are going to be real and transparent, especially in the times that we're living in. You can't help people get free, delivered, saved, and healed if you're not willing to tell what you've been through and how he brought you out. If you want to act like you're perfect, you never done anything wrong, how you going to help me? And what we're dealing with in this time, especially now, to me, it's like a whole nother of wickedness has been released. What people are dealing with, they don't need you to say they're going to pray for you and then walk away and they don't pray for
Right,
you. If
right.
somebody asks you to pray for them, you stop right then and you pray for them, because we
That's
need
something
it.
that's been on my heart lately as well.
Yeah.
Because we do often say, "You're in my prayers," or "I'm going to pray for you," and then we don't actually do it. We may have every intent in the world to do it when we say it,
Yeah.
but
But
sometimes life gets in the way. We get busy. It's
yeah,
we start praying about our own stuff, and then we forget about
there
the
you go.
person that we said we were going to pray for, and that person felt good. Oh, so and so said they're going to pray for me. That
Yeah.
everything's going to be okay, and
Yeah.
then we don't actually pray for them.
Yeah. And you think about how much, mental illness has been around forever, Dr. Rhonda, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
reality of it is now everybody wants to address it. Well, what about 20, 30 years ago when people were committing suicide, where people were doing all these things? Yeah,
Right.
it's in a heightened era now, but this didn't just start. We're just now talking about it. And
Mm-hmm.
so we really have to get to a point. I saw a post today on Facebook and I reposted it. And it said, what if instead of looking at the alcoholic, we started looking at what drove them to drink?
Mm.
What if we stopped looking at the prostitute as a prostitute and we looked at her for the sexual abuse in her childhood?
Mm.
Like, we are so quick to judge people based on what they're going through as a result of something. But what about getting to the core? And that was the difference for me. When I say this time, when I got when I got delivered this time, the difference for me this time was the Lord put the mirror in my face, and He helped me to get to the root of why I was doing the stuff I was doing.
Yes.
And so I went through a lot of childhood molestation, abuse, all kinds of stuff. And in that is why I began to act out in other ways. And so
Mm-hmm.
once I got to, okay, the reality of this is that I never felt this. And so I went for temporary fixes with that. But
Mm-hmm.
once I got to the point that, okay, Lord, I need you to teach me how to love you, how to love myself,
Yes.
how to trust. Then the things that I previously desired, Dr. Rhonda, I don't desire those anymore because now I know I'm worthy of more. Right. So I
Yes.
didn't have a standard set before because I didn't have an example. And now I'm like, okay, my eyesight has been changed, my appetite has changed, and so now I'm able to see things a whole lot differently. But we've just got to get to a point where we're not so quick to judge people, but we investigate and get to the root cause. Most of us have suffered some type of trauma in our lives, and we don't really see it until somebody does something and we get triggered,
Yes.
and we go left on them. But why did we? But why did we go left? Why did
You're
we get
absolutely right.
and that's how we truly get healed and delivered from things is we got to get to the root.
So now, I already know that you're a minister, but do you do speaking engagements specifically on these subjects as well? And do they go along with your books? How does that part work?
Both, actually.
Okay.
So I have a nonprofit, which is my ministry as well. It's called Healing Empowerment Transformation Diamonds in the Rough nonprofit, and we host conferences. We actually have two conferences coming up in the Dallas area. One of them is in May. It's called Hiding Behind the Lipstick, and it's part 3. This will be the 3rd year for that conference. It's time to stop hiding. And it pretty much just talks about how we're hiding who we are, our identities, the stuff that we're going through. We can put on these hats and
Yeah.
lipstick and sunglasses, and we can put on all this stuff and pretend to be who we need to get through the day.
Mm-hmm.
But Christ still sees us. He knows us, and he's willing to accept us regardless. So why are we hiding? It's just our flesh, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there's a men's conference going to be coming up, and it is in July, and
Okay.
it is called My Brother's Keeper. Men Hurt Too.
So you're going to
Um,
be speaking at the men's conference?
no,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
it's my nonprofit, but I have a men's podcast. And
Okay.
5 of the gentlemen that are on the podcast, one of them is actually a part of my nonprofit ministry. He will be leading that conference. So I used to just minister to women. And then the Lord was like, well, men hurt too. And I was like, ooh, because I didn't want to, I wasn't thinking about men. And my thing was I had been so hurt by men in the past, I almost had a resentment for men. But what the Lord did is He took me, had me start ministering to men to help men heal. And it developed some sister brother relationships with me and the guys on the podcast. I now am able to see what healthy relationships with men and women look like. I never saw that before. So God has just a way of doing stuff. And so now I have these 5 brothers of mine that host my podcast, and we talk and we chat, and
Okay.
I'm just like, wow, look at God. He showed me, because I was like, I don't know if there's any good guys out there. I ain't seen none. Da, da, da. And I mean, look what He's done. But yes, ma'am, I accept speaking engagements, whether in church, out of church. My books do promote the same things. Everything is healing, empowerment, transformation, based on my testimony, and across the board. Depending on what the subject is about, it's still going to come around to healing, empowerment, transformation by the end, Dr. Rhonda.
And yeah, let's not get it twisted.
Hey, it's gonna come back around.
So
Yeah.
I want to put your website up one more time.
Okay.
So if people want to book you for a speaking engagement, or if they want to read any of your books, they can go to author stephaniemseaton.com, correct?
So that is where my t-shirt line is. That is where my books are. That is if they want to publish a book deal on my publishing. If you want to book me for a speaking engagement, it would be my email, and that is Stephanie M. Seaton, the author, at gmail.com. So Stephanie M. Seaton, VTHE, author, at gmail.com. And I do reply to all emails.
Okay. All right. Well, that's great. That's great to know. So now with your t-shirt line, I'm guessing that's kind of an extension of the messages that you're putting out in your books.
No, actually,
Hmm.
the t-shirt line are graphic designs that I've created, and they're all Christian themed. Now, one of them, it does say healing, empowerment, transformation, of course. And then I've designed the t-shirts for both conferences, for the men's conference, for the women's conference, and I really just started having fun. I never even thought about a t-shirt line, and I just started doing it, and I literally done it in about 48 hours. Like within 2 days, I had a collection put together, and I was like, okay, Lord, let me find out these t-shirts end up being the thing that takes me that takes me full time. And I'm thinking it's the books. But I really enjoyed doing it, and so I was like, okay, so I went ahead and released the designs.
Okay. Now, we did have a question that came from Instagram. She wanted to know the names of your books again, and where she could find them.
Okay, so all of my books, you can find them all major platforms. I have almost 20 books. So let me tell you a couple of them that were released most recently. The very first one, of course, is The Woman at the Well. I have a book called Abusive Christian Marriage that I went through a journey, and it is about my life. Most recently, I have released a book, which is an anthology project with 14 amazing women, and the name of the book is Trying to Love Them. It's an anthology talking about trying to love Black men, how
Mm,
complicated and complex yet rewarding it can be. It is not just a good read for women; it's a good read for men as well, so that they know how we feel inside. There were Black women and Hispanic women that wrote in that book, and just talking about with the challenges that Black men face, how we are trying to be there for them, how we're trying to hold them down, but we need them to let us in, with all the stereotypes and things that they have on their shoulders.
yes.
And then I have another anthology project that was actually nominated for Christian Literary Awards, as well as my book, The Woman at the Well. It is an anthology of 14 women, and it's called The Crazy Girl in My Head Has to Go. And
I love that title.
that is pretty much talking about that broken girl that I used to be, how I sabotaged love, I sabotaged pretty much everything. I could, overthinking, creating scenario, playing whole movies in my head that never happened. Then I get on the phone and I'm like reacting to this imaginary movie in my head, like, and there were 14 of us, Black, white, and Hispanic, and we all had that version of ourselves. And I thought it was amazing. If you read that book, you'll hear 14 chapters, but the same story of that crazy girl. I'm right now motivated to talk more about a miscarriage I had 29 years ago. Uh,
Mm.
the name of the book is Unspoken Grief, a story of healing after miscarriage. I was on a getaway with some friends, and one of my friends started talking about abortion. And as she was talking, I just got convicted, and the Holy Spirit brought me back around to the fact that 29 years ago, I had a miscarriage and I never dealt with it. Like literally, I went to my husband at the time actually dropped me off at the hospital. So I was in a bad abusive marriage. And he dropped me off at the hospital. I had to call some strangers. Well, they weren't strangers, but they weren't family from
Right.
church to come be with me because I was in this delusion, making everybody think things were perfect and great. And long story short, that night after I had the procedure, which was the removal, I went home and cooked dinner. I went
Wow.
home and cooked dinner and just never addressed it like it didn't happen. And there's so many of us women that have lost children, whether it were through miscarriage, through abortion, or whatever, and we never actually had the time to grieve.
Right.
We, we never.
Do you think it was because you were trying to be strong, or you didn't really look at it as your child yet? What do you think the reasoning was for that?
For me, it was all of the above. I was in an abusive marriage. He didn't give me space to grieve. I had to cook dinner. I had a 5 month old and I was 3 months pregnant. So I was barely 8 weeks, postpartum from getting pregnant. Then on top of that, just the fact that I was only 21, I was very young. Didn't know how to grieve. I didn't want the baby. If I'm real about it, Dr. Rhonda, I didn't want the baby because I already had one and I'm married and not happy and trying to get out.
Right.
And so, no, I never accepted the pregnancy. I was, and that was part of my problem was that I kept speaking that I did not want the child. And so the Bible says the power of life and death is in the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
So not only was the stress and the trauma from the marriage affecting me having the miscarriage, but it was also the words I spoke, which was another reason why it was hard for me to deal with it and face it, because I had to face the reality that there was power in those words
Right.
I spoke when I had that miscarriage. And so I've written this book and I'm having several different women discussions in different cities where women who share similar stories are coming together. We're having a panel, we're calling it Women's Talk. And we're talking about it, whether it was miscarriage, abortion, however you lost your child. But having a moment for us to be able to tell our story, but at the same time support each other and leave healed, leave whole. Um,
Right.
yeah. So, like I said, I got a lot of books. Please take the time to check them out. I'm sure that you'll find something that's an inspiration to you. These are all again based on personal testimonies of different things that I've experienced at different parts of my life.
Well, I really appreciate talking with you. I mean, you have such a wealth of information, and you are so inspirational and motivating. Like I
Thank
said, I just had to let it go because I mean, what you're saying is probably a blessing to so many people who, like you said, feel like they're in this all by themselves, and
you.
they
Yeah,
need to hear that you might be going through your stuff, but you can still be successful. You can still
yeah,
be motivating. You can still help somebody else. You
yeah,
you don't have to stay in your stuff. So that's
yeah.
why I said I needed to let that keep going.
Thank you. You know what, Dr. Rhonda, the more we help other people, we actually find that we'll be healed ourselves.
Amen.
Yeah. My
Amen.
healing process started when I began teaching a class on healing for damaged emotions to other women. And that's when the mirror got turned on me.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good way to end it. I want to thank you once again for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm,
Thank you.
Look, I know our next guest is around here somewhere because she was all up in the comments. So I hope she's gonna be popping in this backstage sometime soon. But I'm gonna give her the space to come on in here. So Star Rebel, if you're around, come on in. We're waiting for you. But I wanna thank you once again for being on the show. I look forward to being on
Thank you.
yours.
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
and I and I pray God's blessings on your ministry and that it will continue to grow and inspire many more people.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, you have a great night.
All right. You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye. All right, so that was author Stephanie Seaton. And now we are going to bring our next guest in. She must have been lurking. She heard me fussing because she popped up as soon as I said her name. But I want to welcome Miss Star Rebel to the Horizons Author Lounge. Hello, ma'am.
Hello. You know what's funny? Well, first of all, I have to say I definitely enjoyed uh, the segment right before me. It was just so inspiring.
Yes,
That was
yes,
awesome. And I like, Dr. Rhonda, how you put both of us together. I mean, because it's like I literally, like my story literally resonates with a lot of things that the author right before me, isn't she a minister? The minister just said.
yes, yes.
And so, you know what's funny though? So I actually signed on 10 minutes ahead, like I was supposed to, but I didn't realize I was supposed to scroll down and hit enter the studio or something. So I was just sitting there chilling, like do 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 do
I
do.
think that's why I'm like, I know she's here. I see her in the comments.
Is that not hilarious? Mm-mm.
Well, welcome to the show anyway. I'm really glad you're here, and I'm glad we finally are able to make this happen. I think we were trying to make this interview happen for a little while now.
Yes, yes. I forgive you.
Oh, I cannot with you. Well, why don't we tell everybody? Let's start by telling everybody who is Star Rebel, besides Mark's fellow she sister.
Right. So actually, look, I am just a country girl at heart, raised up as a preacher's kid in the church and went to, did the whole college and expanded my educational side of my life. And I realized, though, through the years, that the most important thing for me to do is definitely to cultivate my self love and appreciate the woman that I am. Hence, which is how I got to She Publishing, who I'm in love with, Shanita, who is my
Yes.
publisher, and my book, Star Rebel, The Resurrection of Star Rebel.
Okay, well, tell me about the resurrection of Star Rebel.
So, actually, you know what I want to do? I want to do something I hadn't done before, right?
Okay,
So, I'm just going to read the back of the book just to give you an idea.
okay.
So, as a as a preacher's kid, she was raised to embrace faith and believe in a higher power. Yet she found herself trapped in life's heartaches and unattainable expectations, entombed in the web of deep-rooted lies. She was a mere shadow of her former self, a stranger in her reflection. She had allowed herself to disintegrate like ashes. Beneath her charming smile was a soul being buried alive by internal conflict and emotional turmoil.
Mm,
And so that is really the essence of my book. And it is a memoir, but it's much more than that. It is a journey of, just like the minister just said, of authenticity, of being real with who you are, what you've been through, and loving yourself enough to where you take care of yourself and
yeah,
you actually realize it's okay if someone doesn't love you the way you feel like you should be loved. It's okay for you not to have them in your circle, in your immediate nucleus. I think that that is one thing that this book has helped. Being pushed by Shanita to just be really honest about what I want to share without
yes.
any hesitations took me to another level. If you have a story,
Mhm.
please reach out to She
Well,
Publishing. Please, like
that was actually what I
it
wanted to ask you,
yeah.
Star, is because first of all, it takes a while to get to the point where you can say it's okay if everybody doesn't like you or if everybody doesn't see you a certain way. So, when were you able to come to that realization? And then the second part of that question is, when did you feel that you were strong enough to tell your story and to basically strip down in front of the world to be honest about your story?
Whew, Dr. Rhonda, the way you said it. Um, so I don't really, I can't really say exactly what catapulted me into being strong enough. I feel like I was doing the work as far as I'm used to people liking me. I'm used to being the life of the party and
Yeah.
everyone patting me on the back. But I'm also used to going home and crying myself to sleep every single
Mm.
night. Um, I was also used to self harm. I talk about my unknowing addiction to opioid in my book. And with that is very interesting to share because I didn't know I was addicted. And I remember I was talking to a friend of mine after she read my book, and she was like, "Well, what did you think when you were stealing people's medication?" I said, "I was just thinking I was surviving."
You didn't even think about the other person.
And now I understand how an addict must feel. I did not see myself that way because I looked like a polished individual,
Mm.
but I was doing diabolical things and causing self harm. When I came out and was really honest about the things I went through, not just with that with the opioids, but the mental challenges and some other things in regards to marriage and the loss of my son,
Hmm.
it's like you would think that people would be like, "Oh, that's so good that you got that out. That is so good that you saw a psychiatrist and you got help." I actually had people come up to me and say, "I ain't got problems like you."
Mm.
I'm talking about this is like people that say they love me. I had people say, "Well, I don't need a psychiatrist. I don't have to go to one." And I said, "That's probably because you causing everybody else to go to one." Okay. So here's the thing is that I realized I used to like literally have a rebuttal. If somebody were to come for me, I'm like, right? But I realized who cares what you think? Think it. The main thing that I have to focus on right now is being able to love myself, feel good about myself, and protect myself. And when you protect yourself, sometimes it is relinquishing relationships with family, with friends that you have known for double-digit years. It may be leaving a tumultuous relationship.
Right.
But once you learn to love and protect yourself, I'm telling you, it is a new freedom. I was in another country and I was with a group of people last year, but I'm very much a loner. So I was just walking around eating by myself, and this group of people came up to me. And one of the girls said, "I saw you yesterday eating in here." I was like, "Okay." She's like, "You just look so happy." And I said, "I am. I am." And Dr. Rhonda, I'm sure you can attest to the freedom when you finally are honest,
Yes.
when you finally let things go, even things like the minister was saying that that you haven't dealt with, and you finally let that go. There's a freedom that you can't really even articulate that you
Hmm.
feel, in a peace.
Absolutely. And I always remind people though that to get to that point is a journey. This isn't something you just wake up the next morning and say, "I'm good now." And there are going to be times where you might trip up and you have to remind yourself who you are. So, do you talk a bit about that process in your book as well?
Yes, it is a journey. It's a journey of me being vulnerable, in a journey of, how do you say this? Knowing that shame doesn't have to be a dirty word.
Yes.
Um, because part of me was embarrassed to actually be transparent because people looked at me in such a different light. But it was killing me.
Mhm.
Like I was decaying inside because you can only keep up with the lies so long.
Right, right. And the lies are what you're telling yourself.
I'm telling myself, I'm exuding to other people to make them feel comfortable. When people hurt me, I don't say anything. I bite my tongue, and say, "Oh no, that didn't hurt. No, I'm good." Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but it all builds up. The lies when I say, I don't hurt myself, or that situations aren't, a negative space for me to be in, and then the lies about who I am as a
Mm.
person to myself, to me, is the most treacherous because it causes the most damage when we lie to ourselves. I think about society, right? And if you just go with me 1 second on this
Mm-hmm.
journey of how society teaches us not to accept and love and appreciate who we are. We got filters for pictures. We got people catfishing. The
Yep.
whole thing is be anyone you want to be. Put your information in AI. Let AI talk for you. And there's this beauty that's missing in
Mm-hmm.
authenticity, in
Mm-hmm.
individuality. We don't all need to look the same. We don't all need to sound the same and act the same for it to be beautiful. And I realize that. So I accept the fact that, hey, I am not perfect. I I'm not perfect as a person, but I'm perfect as the person that God wants me to be. And in my book,
Mm-hmm.
I'm very candid. My conversations with God are just like I'm talking to you, Dr. Rhonda, or how you and I may have talked in private. It's like that's the type of relationship I have. And some people want you to, tiptoe around issues,
Right.
or you have to say your prayer a certain way or come to God a certain way. I don't have those hangups. And I realized that, back to what the minister said, is you can really cultivate your life around your relationship with Christ instead of around doctrine. Know who you are. And, I definitely believe in God. I believe in some of the principles of, I probably say it wrong, but Buddha, just the peace. There are
Mhm.
different type of
Right.
benefits of appreciating even different religions and cultures. It's odd to me how people can have such tunnel vision, and it causes us to segregate ourselves from loving other people. And so, it's one of those things to where when you have that self-confidence and you have put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
um, I remember when I went through the situation in my marriage, that first that I went and lived with my parents that night. It happened, and I slept in a closet. And I didn't put this in the book. I slept in the closet for 3 days. I remember my dad coming into, because it was a bedroom in their house,
Mm-hmm.
and I was sleeping in my bedroom in the closet because I was so torn down. And my dad came in there and he said something to me. My dad is very soft spoken, and he doesn't talk a lot. So you listen attentively when he does speak. And he said, while you are sitting here crumbling, we're going to have to put you into a home. That person is
Wow.
going on with their lives. I was at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I needed to hear from this man, the first man that ever loved me, to say, get up.
And that's huge for another man to say that. So if a man tells you that, then you can take that to the bank. I'll put it that way.
I
That
appreciate that.
you know, my boyfriend has a saying. He said that um, often anger or resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. When you don't want to forgive that person, you're wanting to poison that person, but you're actually punishing yourself. You're sad, you're depressed, you're in the closet, and then he's gone and living his life and doing whatever, and he's all happy, probably found somebody else, and then we're still sitting here mad. We might as well go ahead and live our lives too, because sometimes that's the best.
Broken.
That's the best revenge.
Yeah, and then it's interesting that you say that because I actually could see like we still had a joint bank account. So I saw the first night he stayed at my parents' house that he was out celebrating. Like he spent like I don't know,
Wow.
maybe $1,000. It wasn't like a huge amount of money, but it's the fact that you're out
Mhm.
partying on the first night, and it's like it was just a celebration of his newfound freedom. But here's the thing: whatever it is that you have to do when you're in a situation like that. My situation was unique
Mhm.
when it came to what I went through. I want to applaud you for making it through because it takes a lot to let go of something and to keep moving. And I don't even think about the revenge to anyone because I'm a Leo. When I do revenge, I let it simmer for a year. And if I'm coming to get you, I'm coming to get you. Okay, that's not part of the conversation, right, Dr. Rhonda? But I'm just being real. Like, if I'm gonna do some revenge, you gonna get it. You ain't gonna ever know it's me, but you gonna get it. But here's the thing: the most important thing when it comes to when someone hurting you is to love yourself even more. Right
Mhm.
after my divorce, 2 weeks later, I started graduate school. And that's how I don't deal with pain. I just keep going, keep going, keep going. And eventually it did catch up with me years later. But my point being, keep going. Hold your head up. Um, get to know yourself.
Right.
Learn how to set standards, define words, have perceptions from yourself outside of society, outside of the norms, or what maybe you've been taught or thought, right? So this is just an example. This is like a small example of what I mean by that. In my book, I talk about the word beast and how most people think if you say he's a beast or you're a beast, that means that you're aggressive, diabolical, angry. But to me, when I redefine the word beast after what I've been through, beast means that I'm resilient, that I am
Come on.
strong, that I can
Yeah.
handle it, I can get back up, I can stay in the fight, right? I don't have to
Yes.
win every battle, but I win the war.
Yes.
Do
That,
it
I
for
mean,
yourself.
that's true beast mode.
Yeah, do it for yourself. Know who
Well,
you are. This
let me.
book helps you get there because it is so honest. And it also talks about, as an author, one of my favorite things to write about is sex. So it has, I know Dr. Rhonda's like, I wasn't expecting that. But
Oh yeah, you like one of my favorite things to write about is sex.
I love it. I love writing about sex. I love it. And so even and so I don't know if this is the right look, maybe I should just stick to the questions.
Girl, say what you
Okay,
gonna
okay,
say. This is
whatever.
the
Okay,
Horizons Author Lounge. You say what
okay,
you
all
gotta
right.
say.
All right. So in the book, I talk about sex. I talk because I'm very sexual. Well, I'm very sensual, and it developed through the years as being very sexual as well. So there's moments of that in the book, and in the next book I'm writing right now, it will
Mhm.
include that as well. So yes, my book is for adults.
Okay,
Uh,
now let me ask you this because we only have a few minutes
go
left.
ahead.
Um, it takes a lot. I tell people all the time, people come to me and say, I want to write a book about my life. And I always ask them if they are ready to strip down for the
Hmm.
world to judge you, because you're not going to know everybody who reads your story, and you're not going to be able to stand behind every person who's reading your book and tell them what you meant by that. So, knowing that you are about to strip down, you are about to tell your truth in your book. How do you find, and this is advice I would like you to give to anybody who's thinking of writing their memoir. How do you find the bravery to tell your truth? And where's the line drawn? Because sometimes people want to say everything. I just want to shock them. I'm gonna tell them everything. And then some people like, I don't know if I want to tell them this or that. I don't want them to judge me. How do you balance that?
I think it depends on your motive, right? Like if it is just to educate people, you may not want to go deep. If you want to really inspire someone from something that you experienced in your life, then you
Hmm.
want to pull from the depths of your soul, but make sure it's something that you're comfortable with sharing.
Right.
There are things in the book, of course, about my life. I didn't put every single thing. Some things we would naturally take to our grave. Uh,
Hmm.
but make sure that you are comfortable. And when I say you, I mean you, no one else. So, yeah, and I think that will help you decide how deep you want to go and share with everyone else.
Hmm. That's great advice. Like I said, people want to they want to write their memoirs. They want to write about their lives, but you've got to be ready to tell your truth
Hmm.
and for people to maybe not understand your message.
I appreciate you saying that. Like that resonates with me because you're right. You're not going to be there sitting over somebody's elbow trying to explain things to them. That's why it's
Right.
important that when you do write, that you write 100%
Hmm.
authentic, that you are real, because that way it's up to them. If they're going to perceive it differently, you've done your part, right? You've
Right.
done what your part as far as being honest and being vulnerable.
Amen. And that's all it is being honest, because people will know when you're not being honest, and they will call you out
Oh,
if you're not
yeah.
being honest.
That is,
So
isn't
we
it
don't want that.
interesting? This
It is
is
just
Dr.
very
Rhonda.
interesting.
It's interesting because do you know people can even pick up on that when in writing, when
Yes, they
someone writes a
can.
memo. That is so interesting. You said that. It's true.
And they really can. They can pick up on all of that. Well, unfortunately, we've made it to the end of the interview. But if you can show everybody your book one more time and then let us know where we can find your book.
The resurrection of Star Rebel is at starrebel, the name.com. It's also at MS Star Rebel with two L's.com. So yes,
Yeah, I'm glad you put that two L's because I think I spelled your name wrong a couple of
it's
times.
okay.
So,
It's okay. So yeah, it's two
so I
L's.
apologize.
That's
Yes.
okay.
Well, thank you, Miss Star Rebel, for being on the show. Thank you for also being one of our people who's going on the Meet the World Writers Cruise. I'm so excited to see you in person. We're gonna have a
Yeah.
good time. We are really
Oh
gonna have a good
yes.
time.
Oh yes. And thank you for this platform. It's really amazing. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much. Well, we just want to continue to grow so we can support great authors like yourself.
Definitely, definitely. I appreciate this moment. Thank you, Dr. Rhonda.
Thank you, Star Rebel. You have a wonderful evening. May God continue to bless you.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you. All right, y'all. That is the end of the show. We just finished talking with Star Rebel. And go out and get this book, everybody. It's a very, very powerful story by a very, very influential young woman. And I whenever I do this show, I always feel good because that's what this show is all about. This show is about giving authors a platform to gain new readers, to gain new insight, to spread their message. And we want to continue to do that. So we ask you all to please, please, please help us to continue to make this show grow, so we can reach more authors, so we can connect them with more great readers such as yourself. And I'm going to remind you once again to reserve your spot for the Meet the World Writers Cruise. We are going to have a fabulous time. I mean, it's not just going to be work. We're going to be doing a lot of playing as well. And I want you to be there. We're going to be on Virgin Cruise Lines. We're leaving from Miami and we're going into the Dominican Republic and to the Bahamas. And I told you it's on Virgin Cruise Lines already, right? Yeah, I already told you that. We're going to have a lot of great experiences for authors as well as readers. So this is an experience that you don't want to miss. So if you'd like more information, I want you to look at our promo. We're going to put it up one more time before we close the show out. But you can also go to my website, www.mtwimagesolutions.com, and then just click on the Meet the World Writers Cruise for more information. So that's all we have tonight, guys. God bless you. Thank you. And if you want to be a guest on the show, you're gonna have to wait until April, because March is totally filled up and April is just about filled up. So, and then we're going into May. So we have a lot going on. Thank you, authors. Just continue to come, continue to come, continue to come, and keep making the show everything that it can possibly be. I love you guys. God bless you. Once more, here's the link to the Meet the World Writers Cruise. Click on the link. It's in the chat, and get more information. Pay your deposits and come on and let's have a good time. So, Daniel, if you can go ahead and show that promo one more time, and then we out of here. I'll see you guys tomorrow night on the Black Authors Matter TV. And then I'll see you next week right here, Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, where we're going to meet 2 more amazing authors. Y'all have a wonderful evening. God bless you and bye-bye. Hey, girl, let's talk about those flaky friends for a second. You know the ones. They promise to hang out, then cancel at the last minute. Over it? Same. Imagine this instead. The Meet the World Writers Cruise, setting sail August 29th, 2025 from Miami. New faces, good vibes, and no one flaking on you. It's just you, a group of ambitious, like-minded writers, and some well-deserved fun in the sun. And here's the kicker. Only 30 cabins, and the first 15 signups get a $200 discount. Why wait around for those friends to come through? Make new ones. Write your story and have the time of your life. Now is the time to write your future bestseller.